So we're going to call this conversation Vice and Virtue. And we're going to talk about the things that, well, that we're not supposed to talk about, like money, sex, power, and food. Now, the reason I say we're not supposed to talk about them is because these domains of life are a minefield of strong feelings and even stronger opinions. And you know what people say about opinions. Opinions are like fists. Most people have got one, and most people don't enjoy having one shoved in their face. So, in light of that reality, here's my promise to you. I promise not to shove my opinion in your face. And if you're new here and you don't know this, I truly don't think that I have any business telling you how to live your life. But I do hope you'll keep an open mind, because I think these conversations could bring a lot of hope and some light and perhaps some life to areas that are often filled with frustration, pain, and shame and regret, and a lot of mixed messages. So let's get into it. Okay, let's talk about money first. We, as a general population, we have a really interesting relationship with money. It's something that we interact with every single day, and it plays one of the most central and important roles in our lives. It's pretty much how we do most things. You need money to do, well, really anything, whether it's the basics like food or utilities, transportation, clothing, maybe even a roof over your head. All those things cost money, and so do all of life's extras too. I mean, nicer vehicles, vacations, toys, second houses, new electronics. Money is the tool that we use to get the stuff we need, and maybe a little more than we need, right? But then there's this deeper layer when it comes to money, like the way that it makes you feel. Money can make you feel stuck, because of our propensity to spend money we don't have to buy stuff, causing us to owe money in the future. We have things like credit cards that allow us to have things now and then pay for them later. But if you repeat that financial behavior over and over and over again, then there is this feeling of being perpetually behind, always owing money to someone or something. I mean, you work, you get paid, but then when you get paid, you have to pay all that money back out to what you owe to others, and there's really not much left maybe at the end of the month. Money can also make you feel not just behind, it can make you feel dumb. It can seem overcomplicated. I mean, people talk about good debt and bad debt, and there's interest, and there's compound interest, and there's saving for retirement, or maybe you haven't really even started that. There's bull markets, crashes, fees, 401ks, IRAs, 403bs, pensions, stocks, index funds, mutual funds, RRSPs. I mean, maybe you've been saving your whole life, you've never saved a thing, you don't know how things are going to go. It can be overwhelming, and it can make you feel inadequate. There's also that phenomenon, the feeling of having to keep up with the Joneses, which I thought was going to be about, wanting to get a nicer car because my neighbor across the street has nicer cars. But it turns out it's more normal than that. It's me overspending the grocery budget so I can buy burgers and beer for everyone who's coming over. Or it's about going to a restaurant I know I can't afford just because I want to save face and not miss out on the social opportunity. I mean, money can make you feel all kinds of different ways. And then add to that the fact that we all come from different families who talked about and handled money in vastly different ways. I mean, no matter how you feel about how your family handled money growing up, whether you liked it, you understood it, or you didn't like it, I mean, the experience still shaped you. When I was a kid, I used to ask my parents all the time, "Are we rich?" I would ask because I had these classmates who lived in big houses on open spaces, beautiful waterfront homes, and they always took skiing vacations out west in the Rockies. To me, that was rich. But my parents always said the same thing. There's 3 meals a day in our house, plus snacks. There's a roof over your head, and we get to go on vacation every summer. Sure, that roof over our head only had 1 bathroom in it for all 7 of us until my grandfather installed a makeshift one in the basement. And our vacation every summer was camping. And those snacks that they were talking about, they were always of the homemade variety and never the trendy store-bought kind. But as far as I knew, we were rich. And the truth is, I like that way of thinking. But on the flip side, sometimes money had a sort of magic or a mystery to it. Like if my dad's job was ever in jeopardy and there was like nervousness about it at the dinner table, he would always say the same thing to us. We've always been cared for and will always be cared for. My dad had a mustache. He also used to work for an Italian company, and so we made a lot of mafia jokes. And I guess I kind of assumed that maybe there was some truth in that. Maybe Dad would lose his job, but the family would take care of us. Anyway, how did your parents talk about money? Was it magical? Was it mystical? Was it concrete and practical? Were you kept in the dark on how it worked? What was it like in your house? One of the most common phrases in a lot of households is, "We don't talk about money." The trouble is that a lot of us then enter and live out our adult lives without a clear path when it comes to money. And when that's the case, it can end up being a problem, a source of stress and shame and pain and regret and confusion or doubt. And to be honest with you, and this is just my opinion, I wonder if maybe the church hasn't always been that helpful when it comes to this part of life. I mean, if you follow it throughout history, it seems like the church at large has sent some pretty mixed messages when it comes to money. I mean, we've got everything on the spectrum, from mega churches and cathedrals that have spent millions of dollars on facilities and sound systems and lights and paintings and stained glass or floors and more. And then there's the figureheads who lead those institutions, flying around in privately owned jets, riding around the world in a height of luxury and comfort, making promises that if you just pray the right prayer or you just donate the right amount, you too can be blessed tenfold. But then on the other end of the spectrum, we've got clergy making vows of poverty, some who choose an ascetic life in monasteries, or who choose to work for nothing amongst the poorest of the poor populations in the world, like Saint Teresa in Calcutta, India. I mean, the church sometimes seems to house the opinion that God wants you to be rich, and at the same time gives off the impression that the only truly virtuous life is a life of poverty. And all of these inform our opinions and our experiences with money. I mean, do you naturally see people with a lot of money as being blessed by God or the universe, or as evil and selfish? Do you look at those in poverty as being unfaithful or lazy, or as faithful to God, rejecting a love of money? I mean, how do you think about money? How should we think about money? I mean, is it a blessing or is it a curse? Is it God's gift or is it just the result of selfishness? Is it a vice or is it a virtue? It's interesting. Jesus actually weighs in on this topic more than almost anything else during his preaching years on earth. We could probably spend 6 months talking about his teachings on money. But for this video, we're just going to look at one of his most iconic teachings because I think it will bring clarity and hope and light in this domain of life. Jesus said, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and vermin destroy and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." Now, lots of debate can rage on about what earthly treasures are and what heavenly treasures are and what exactly did Jesus mean by those things in his day and age and what could it mean to us today. And if you'd like, we can debate those things till he comes back in the comments section below. But I don't think those are really the thread worth pulling on here. You see, it's that last little line that I think is universally in all times and places far more interesting. Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Not too long ago, my wife Alana chastised me after a meeting at work. I'd come home complaining about how everyone in the meeting was getting all worked up and offended when we started talking about how people should or shouldn't handle their finances, their money. I mean, what's the big deal, I was complaining. It's just numbers on a page. And she so wisely said to me, "Corey, that may be true, but the numbers are a representation of what people value. And to suggest that someone could be better with their money is to suggest that they could be better with their values." And them's some fighting words. But that's exactly what Jesus is getting at here. Your treasure shows what you treasure most. The thing I love about Jesus' statement is that it immediately prompts a question, though, rather than force-feeding an answer about this. What does my spending, my use of money, how I think about money, what does it say about my values, about what I treasure most? Now, you don't need Jesus to tell you that really the answer to that question is really important. I mean, look what he says next. The eye is the lamp of the body. And if your eyes are healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eyes are unhealthy, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light within you is darkness, how great is that darkness? Okay, look, this is a really strange saying, but I promise you that it has to do with money. You see, to have healthy eyes is an ancient idiom that means you're a generous person. And the background to that, the etymology of the idiom, is that when you have healthy eyes, you see things as they truly are. You have a proper view of your own needs and somebody else's needs. And the result is that you act generously. But when you have unhealthy eyes, you don't see reality accurately, and so you act out of envy and selfishness. Now, just like a good lamp gives light to a room, making it easy to navigate, a healthy view of money means you see things as they are, making life easier to navigate. But in the dark, you stumble around, you trip over toys, you stub your toe on something your 2-year-old left out. Jesus' point is that if you've got a good lamp, a healthy view of money, you won't stumble as much, and you'll probably be generous. But if you've got a defective lamp, if you have an envious or selfish view of money, you're going to stumble all over the place in the dark. You know the old phrase, right? Money talks. Well, if your money could talk, what would it say about what mattered most to you? Tim Keller, who's a professor, pastor, and an author, he says that we often use our money to chase after 4 things: comfort, control, approval, and influence. Chasing after comfort is about looking to money in order to pad our experience in life, indulging in every creaturely comfort in order to feel emotionally or physically at ease at all times. A person chasing after comfort will spend money on themselves in order to achieve that feeling of ease, using money to kind of create a buffer between you and life's irritants. Chasing after control is about looking at money as a way to avoid the chaos and destruction and suffering that is basic to life. The person who sees money this way is more likely to hoard money, to not spend or give any of it in order to mitigate against any possible negative future. Chasing approval is really about looking at money as a way to gain the applause or the approval of others, perhaps family, friends, or even people you don't know, just some stranger at the stoplight next to you. It's all about trying to feel okay about who you are. The person who views money that way is going to use it to gain the approval of others, so they're going to spend money on stuff that maybe they don't need to impress people that they maybe don't even know or like, to purchase the gaze and admiration of somebody else. And lastly, some look to money to give them influence or power over others. This person wields their wealth in order to demand a say in decisions, or offer input where none was asked for, or give, but with a lot of unnecessary strings attached in order to control someone else's behavior. Now, you'll notice I'm not really being overly specific, because that's not really something that I'm able to do here. I don't know your life. I also don't know your money situation, and I don't know what you're chasing. But here's the point. When money is your primary pathway to comfort or control or approval or influence, it stops being a tool to get what you need in life, and it starts becoming a tyrant. Now, I think that's probably worth saying twice. If money becomes your primary pathway to comfort, control, approval, or influence, it stops being a tool to get what you need, and it starts becoming a tyrant. It becomes a point of stress and anxiety, frustrations, perhaps even shame and guilt. I can give you a real-life example that's going on with us. I mean, we're just finding our way out of one of these experiences right now. A couple weeks ago, we said yes to going on a vacation that in retrospect, we should have said no to because we didn't have the money for it. But why did we say yes? It was to gain the approval of others. And what's been the fallout of that choice that we made? a lot of stress, anxiety, and frustration. I mean, money is going to be a tyrant for the next few paychecks as we try to claw our way out of the hole that we've dug for ourselves. Money's going to tell us what we can and can't do. It's mostly going to tell us what we can't give or get. I think that's why Jesus finishes this section off by saying, look, no one can serve two masters. Either you're going to hate the one and love the other, or you'll be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. This is the kicker right here for Jesus. Everyone has a master. Even if you're not religious, you've got one too. We all hold something or someone as the supreme importance in our lives. David Foster Wallace, not a Christian, but in one of his most famous speeches, said that everyone worships something, but you get to choose. So choose wisely, because you will become enslaved to that thing. And if you worship money, if you look to it for your source of comfort, control, approval, or influence in the world, it'll become a tyrant, enslaving you, directing your decisions, distorting your relationships. It'll start to kind of screw with the way you see yourself and the way you relate to other people, the way you relate maybe to the dirt that you live on, and because of those things, ultimately, the way you relate to God. And look, some of you have felt that, right? You felt the way your view or someone else's view of money has ruined or tampered with your relationship. Or you felt the ever-present anxiety, knowing deep down that there is no amount of money that you can stack up that will completely mitigate against all negative possible futures. Or you felt the pressure to accumulate more and more, putting you at the mercy of a master who tells you that you can't give, or you can't be generous, or you can't be the kind of person you really want to be, because you still have to make that credit card payment for those shoes that are in your closet you don't really wear, or that dream car in the driveway that's quickly becoming a nightmare, and it's not even worth what you're paying for it anymore, plus interest on top of it. But there is another way to live. There's a way to move from money as tyrant to money as tool. Now, how? Well, it's not magic. You just have to unmask your money and move on to a better master. Now, when I say unmask your money, I mean you got to just probe your heart and ask, am I hoping my money will be the ultimate source of comfort, control, approval, or influence? Do I look to money for that? And if the answer is yes to any of those, then maybe it's time to move to a different master. And if I can, of course, let me suggest Jesus. Why? Well, because for me, there really is no greater source of comfort, approval, or influence. I mean, Jesus gave his life for us. To know that he gave up the riches of heaven in order to come and live an earthly life and die on our behalf. I mean, you want comfort? There's no amount of money that can purchase the comfort that comes with knowing that the God of the universe thought you were worth dying for. If you want to let go of your need for control, you can know that everything that comes your way is an opportunity to grow more and more to become like Jesus, whom most people would agree is one of the best humans to walk the planet. And you want approval? You have the approval of the God of the universe. I mean, Jesus' love is the proof. And if you want influence, Jesus is inviting you to live your life as his example of love and mercy on earth. Every day is a chance to add value to the lives of the people around you, which is the best kind of influence that there is. And if you want money to move from being a tyrant to a tool, you got to unmask it. Besides, money will never die for you, but it might demand you give your life in order for it to give you that comfort, control, approval, or influence. But the more you look to Jesus for those things, the more money becomes freed up to be a tool in your life, to get what you need. When you stop looking to money for those things, it frees you up to use money for purposes that end up being way more fun, like generosity, like giving, like donating, like supporting causes that are close to your heart that you care about, like blessing people in your life, your family, your friends, or maybe people in your community. All of those things, by the way, bring a level of satisfaction that you might even call a heavenly treasure. Well, as always, friends, thanks so much for joining us here at RedeemerOnline.church. You know, it's our mission to help the physically scattered to digitally gather and grow as disciples of Jesus. We want to help you grow as a follower of Jesus. And if that's something you're interested in, you haven't done so before, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, the like button, and that notification bell, because that's going to let you know whenever we put out new videos, and it's going to let us know that you're here. And let me tell you, we're so glad that you're here. Now, we think growing as a follower of Jesus happens in 3 main steps. The first step is to do exactly what you're doing right now, and that's to consume content. We put videos out every single week, sometimes stuff during the week on this YouTube channel, and the first step to growing as a follower of Jesus is to begin to consume the content that we put out. But the second step that we'd love for you to take even today is to go from just consuming to communicating. And that's when you take the step to click that link down below that says join, where you can join our email list. We promise we won't share your information with anybody, but that'll open up a line of communication for us to begin to talk with one another. It'll also put you on our email list where we send out tools for following Jesus every single week. And the third step is to contribute. And that's where you go from loving to watch Redeemer Online to living Redeemer Online in your own life, where you begin to produce more spiritual fruit in your home, in your community, or in your workplace, bringing more love, more joy, and more peace to those spaces. Because we're convinced here at Redeemer Online that the more people who learn to live and love like Jesus, the better off our communities, our workplaces, and our families will be. Now, if this has been a benefit to you, if this channel's been a benefit to you, we'd love to have you support us, and you can do that by going to the donate link in the description below. We thank you so much for your participation in that as well. Now, until we see each other again, I want to send you off with God's blessing. Go with the love of your Heavenly Father, the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit that binds us all together, even though we're separated all over the place. And we'll see you next time.